Let's get started. First, let me go and thank everybody for attending today's. It's a special meeting, which I'm really excited. First, Happy New Year, everybody. And having said that, this is a safety committee meeting. And since this is our first meeting of the year, I want to, first of all, let everybody know that this meeting is going to be recorded, so the people who aren't able to attend can go ahead and listen to it later on at their convenience. So with that, then let me explain that we have special guests here as observers from the Office of Mayor Pro Tem Angelique Ashby. We have Misha Ross in charge of constituent affairs. Now, did I see Karina Telemontes too?
Yes, I'm here.
I thought I saw you. Oh, happy belated birthday.
Thank you.
Okay, and she's chief of staff, and they're just going to be here as observers. Since the emphasis is on security, so we have with us, and thanks to the Ashby team, Sacramento Police Department Captain Steve Oliveira, and then we also have, is it Lieutenant Forbeck?
Yep, that's me. Call me Eric.
Oh, hi, pleasure to meet you. Thank you for attending today. Do we have your captain here too?
Yep, I'm here.
Oh, okay. I thought I saw your face. Okay. Thank you so much then. Okay, so this is how it's going to be since we're going to be recording this. We'll go ahead and let me first read what was presented to me from Karina about, why they're not going to be able to answer some of the questions dealing with the homeless. So she said, Misha from the team plans on being there just to listen to the safety discussion with the police department, but won't be taking questions from the community regarding Mayor Pro Tem Ashby's plan on homelessness in Natomas, because they plan on doing a community discussion with the District 1 community to address these questions. And right now they're planning, the key strategies on what to present to, the whole community. So with that being said, then
Raquel, can I intervene real quick? It's Karina.
Sure, of course. Yes.
Sure. We have a save the date for February 18th for that forum.
Thank you.
More information to come, but the questions regarding homelessness we'll be addressing on the 18th.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I was hoping I would get a date of when it would be, because I figured it was coming just around the corner. So thank you so much, Karina.
Sure.
Okay, so then with that, let's go with who we have. For those that don't know me, I'm Raquel Fosnock, and I'm the chairperson of the safety committee. We also have Brenda Borg, who should be attending, I think, via phone. And she's in Southern California. We have General Manager Kyle Bodyfelt, and he's the one doing the recording, and he'll keep me in line, I should say. And the committee members, James Nichols, who's unable to attend today. We have Michael Sonneman, he's here with us today too. And a new member, Carrie Cloud. And we have numerous homeowners attending as well. And again, as I mentioned, we have Misha Ross, and then we have Karina Telemontes and Captain Oliveira and Lieutenant Forbeck. So let's go with starting with the questions. There were some questions that were submitted to SAC PD earlier, so let's go with that. So Lieutenant Forbeck, would you be able to respond to, there was a couple of questions first, and the first one dealt with, what do the police and community leaders need to have to make community policing work within the Natomas Park?
That's actually something we're already doing and have been doing since I was a baby cop. I've been here for about 30 years. And when I started, POP was just beginning. It's called our problem-oriented policing or community policing. And so we've been doing it well over 30 years. And part of it is what we're doing right now. Unfortunately, we're not in person because of COVID. I really wish we could be talking in person. Oh. Get over something.
Is that
That's not me.
okay?
I don't know where that's coming from.
Kyle? Kyle, do we have everybody else
There you
on
go.
mute? Thank you.
Let me see. Let me mute everyone else.
I think you just got it with whoever you just muted.
Thank you.
Okay.
So basically what we're doing now is part of our community policing. Like I said, unfortunately, we're not able to do it in person. Steve and I both really prefer being out and outside and seeing people and meeting and greeting folks. In addition to that, we have our teams and our special teams that work in the Natomas area that we would like you guys to be able to meet in person. But as far as strengthening it, the only thing I can say is more communication. You have my email and Steve's email. Those are huge for the basically crime prevention, but also just keeping in touch. Hey, that we have something going on. We have some blight that's coming on. Things like that are very important. And it's kind of if we don't know about it, we can't address it. And a lot of times people will wait till the last minute, or they'll call a friend versus calling or letting us know. And it's one of those things where we need to know about it so that way we can at least address it. A lot of times things will start to manifest, like the traffic concerns that we're talking about with the speeding cars. Well, we do have motor teams and things like that we can put in place and work those issues, but we need to hear about it. And so hopefully moving forward, again, you have my email address and phone number, please, and tell everybody that's part of this group and people that aren't part of it. If there's a concern or there's something that you want us to take a look at, please send me an email or let us know.
Okay.
Yeah, feel free to add my email in there too. I actually periodically send out different reports or information that's going on. We're responsible for the entire north area of Sacramento. So on the west side, we have South Natomas, North Natomas, the Northgate area. And then, of course, on the east side, we have the Del Paso Heights, Robla area, and Arden Fair, and all those different communities. But anything that happens out here, I have an email group, and I'd be happy to add anybody to it. So if you want to share my email address and just send me a message, hey, can you add me to your email group? And as things occur, we have news in the department, I'll share that. I'm also available on Nextdoor. I get a lot of messages through Nextdoor. I don't know if everybody's on that, but whoever is, you can always reach me through there if you have any concerns, questions, or but sometimes just so folks know that we can't see what everybody's posting on Nextdoor. And even if you send us a link to something that was posted, because a lot of people post suspicious activity on Nextdoor on their group, we don't see that, but you guys do. And then I'll have someone from the community who sees it send me a link to it. I can't open that link either. So please just tell those folks, if you see something, to call our, if it's not an emergency, call our non-emergency number and just report it. And if officers are in the area, they'll be dispatched if it's that type of call. Because if we don't know about it, we can't, help anybody out with it. So.
Thank you. Okay. So the second question was, and I guess this is more like piggyback onto it, Lieutenant Forbeck. What is the most effective way to prevent crime within Natomas Park? We have a rash of cluster mailboxes being broken into, speeding cars down neighborhood streets, and drive-by shootings. And I know I clumped lots of different stuff in that group, but it just seems that we as of late seem to have just massive things happening within our area all of a sudden, or it's been going on, but it just seems to be more pronounced now.
I'd like to say it's unique to Natomas, but unfortunately it's throughout the entire state right now. And there's a lot of political things I can't really discuss because I'm on the clock, but we do have some bills that have gone through that have made our job extremely, extremely difficult. And that, I mean, like our detectives for some of these crimes, our state legislature is just basically putting in effect that anybody under the age of 18, we cannot interview without an attorney. And it used to be where if we had somebody under the age of 18 and little kids like to talk, we would be able to stop some of these burglaries in these different cities. In addition to that, we're having the state governor just basically put probation now to a maximum of 2 years and for felonies, and a maximum for 1 year for misdemeanors. So there's a lot of things that are tying our hands, unfortunately. And I wish I could say, oh, it's going to be all peaches and cream, but it's not. So the big push, what I would say is basically harden the target. And by doing that is utilizing lights, neighborhood watch, something as simple as getting a hold of by email or calling our dispatchers or non-emergency number, things like that, and getting more involved. It seems like with the, and again, I'm gonna blame it on COVID, but doing things digitally now. And so nobody.
He's muting.
You got muted, Eric.
Sorry
Yeah.
about that, Eric. I meant to hit someone else. Eric, can you
Just your last part, Eric.
Yeah, sorry, my fault.
I said all kinds of really cool stuff and he muted me, so I'm no. Just, I don't know where I got muted, but basically is we need folks to be eyes and ears. It used to be people were doing stuff, and now people send stuff on, like Steve was saying, on Nextdoor or things like that. If something seems suspicious, call. If it's suspicious to you, it's going to be suspicious to us, and we'd rather have you call us out and come see somebody or contact somebody that is not doing anything wrong, but at least we're making contact and kind of identifying that person or persons. So for us, it's notifying us on what's going on. And again, it's making it a harder target for yourselves. There's the Ring cameras that capture everything nowadays. Lighting systems around the house, the right kind of shrubbery. I mean, a lot of people like to have nice pretty shrubs in front of their house, but if you make the kind that are like sticky, like rose bushes and things like that, you're not gonna have people creeping and crawling around your neighborhood or your residence. So just little things like that. And I know you discussed the traffic, like speeding. That's kind of something that we need to keep hearing about, so we can address it with our motor team or our officers. We'll send something out to them. But we can also address it with the traffic division, or traffic engineering. And so if we get too many complaints, we can actually do research on it and see what an intersection or what's happening there and causing some of the problems. So was it drive-by shootings? I think was things. I'm knocking on wood. Fortunately, in North Natomas, we don't have a lot of that. It seems like when we have a shooting, it's like, oh my goodness, it's the worst thing ever. Which I ever had, but it's not. In North Natomas.
Let me get the charger.
Some kids playing there.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where we do have them in the city. We do have a very busy north area, which is Del Paso Heights and Natomas and South Natomas. But North Natomas, fortunately, not, like I said, knock on wood, we're not seeing the drive-bys, or what you call drive-bys.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
We had a couple of drive-by shootings. Remember, Raquel, we met with
Lynn,
the
could you please wait? Okay, let me explain what's going to happen. Okay, this is a special meeting, and we're going to go
Okay.
through. Thank you so much. Okay, we're going to go through some of the questions that were submitted in advance, and then we're going to have questions from the committees and then the homeowners. Okay, so I appreciate all your patience. Thank you so much. So there was a question submitted in, Lieutenant, on this person wanted to know that what has been done to investigate past theft, meaning mail theft. And this person wants to know what can be, how can the resident be compensated for their losses due to the theft?
Mail theft is kind of investigated in a couple different ways. We kind of stumble upon it usually when we make an arrest on, usually petty criminals. They'll have folks mail with them and all that. But the actual agency that does the investigations for mail theft and the mail crimes is the USPS. And I have a number. I have a email address. So if you're ready, I'll give you the phone number for their investigative unit.
Ready.
For the United States Postal Service, their investigation unit, it's 877 876 2455. And then there's also a way of filing a report that they will investigate online, and it's under www.uspis.gov. And then if you click down to the report a crime tab, that's where you can report any crimes regarding mail theft and things like that. I know that folks are upset or irritated by the mail thefts and the cluster mailboxes that we see quite often. A lot of times we do get good leads on those just from the Ring cameras, like I was just describing a little while ago. And when we do have good evidence, something that our detectives can work on, they actually work on. We'll submit it to our detective division, which is our neighborhood crimes unit. And then if they have something where they can actually investigate, where they have a display or they have a vehicle or something like that, they will actually take a look at that and those kind of crimes. As far as compensation, got me on that one. I don't know where that one's happened. Steve, any ideas?
No, I don't know about the compensation, but I was just going to add that obviously if you see someone breaking into a cluster box, that's, you call 911. But a lot of times our officers, the way we end up catching these guys, because they're usually doing it in the middle of the night when nobody's awake, nobody sees what's going on. But our officers are out there, and when they see suspicious cars rolling around the neighborhood, late at night, a lot of times they'll make vehicle stops to investigate. And many times they find stolen mail. And so that'll lead to other charges and arrests, and then they'll backtrack, those sort of things. So if we come across it, we will certainly investigate it. And sometimes, we may be doing probation searches for narcotics or guns, whatever it may be. And a lot of these folks are involved in mail theft too. So we come across those folks also in those types of cases, and we will investigate, and we'll work with the Postal Service if we get something like that. But definitely call us if you see anything suspicious, people hanging around mailboxes. If you have video, to let us know. We recently joined with Ring camera, so we're on the Neighbors app. So our detectives now, if they have a specific crime they're investigating in a certain area, they can actually go onto the Neighbors app and then send a request for anybody that might have video in the area that might have caught, a suspicious vehicle, or they might give a description, and people can share that information. So that's just something we just started recently, and we're kind of playing with.
Okay. Thank you for that. Okay. Then those are the questions that were submitted in. And then let's go if, do any of the committee members, starting with, we'll go with Michael Sonneman. Do you have any questions for the captain or lieutenant?
Yes, I do. There was the little speed indicator things that they put out on what's the road there? Not Club Center, where the club is, the main road, the name of that street there. But there was a couple of those things there that when you drove by, it said how fast you were going. They were there for a while, but they've been removed.
Yeah, so our North Command, we only have 2 of them, and it's for our entire area. So we move them around as we get requests. So we had a pretty serious accident there last year. I think it was last year or right at the end of the year before. But so we left them up there for quite a while, but we were getting requests. We get requests from all over for those signs, so we typically move them around. So we'll try to rotate as we get complaints and requests for them. We'll move them back to different locations. So
okay, well, my question is those were up there for quite a while. I'd like to know what did you determine? What kind of data did you collect, and what did it tell you? You had to be doing something with whatever that you'd captured some data on them, I would assume. And I just was wondering what did you find?
Those systems are basically a speed radar. So basically,
so they don't collect anything like how many cars were speeding or anything like that.
The ones we have, I'll have to look and see which ones we had up there, but some of them do collect data. But for the most part, our traffic unit uses those, and then street engineering, the city traffic department. So when they're doing studies, they'll ask for that information. And for us, we use it more as a deterrent for folks, but as you know, for our patrol division, we typically don't look at that unless there's a specific request. So that's usually when traffic division's looking to put speed bumps or more stop signs or change traffic flow, they'll use that information for that.
Okay, so all they were really doing then was someone would see it and see that it said they were speeding, and then hopefully they would slow down. That was really the only purpose then?
That's correct. It's for a deterrent. But now if our the city traffic investigations division, if they want to do a study on a road. So oftentimes a lot of our requests come from them to put up the sign so that they can get the data, and we'll share the data with them. So if you make a complaint to the city transportation department about, you know, certain speeds and people request speed bumps or additional stop signs, they will request us to place them, and then they'll use that data.
Okay. And then my other question is, as far as the people speeding and running stop signs and things like that, because I walk around the neighborhood for exercise quite a bit, and I see an awful lot of it, especially speeding. People sometimes will just outright run the stop sign without even putting on their brakes. And other times people will slow down to maybe 10 miles an hour and then just keep going through. They don't even come anywhere near to a complete stop. I know there's been a little bit off and on of like I saw a motorcycle guy sitting by one of the intersections a while back, but that's been, well, I don't know, over a year ago at least. What can be done about that? Could there be like maybe cameras installed to try to catch people doing that, or any kind of a speed cameras or anything like that, or I mean, I don't know whose budget that would come out of or whatever, but can anything like that be done to you know, put a sign up on the side of the road that says you're being this camera's under, I mean, the street's under surveillance or something along those lines, or?
Yeah, and that's something, you know, your neighborhood association, if you wanted to put up signs, we don't have speed cameras, so we don't use speed cameras. Now, for traffic complaints, we have a 5-officer team, motor team, so they move around every day through different parts of the city. And so we're responsible. I get regular complaints on different intersections in the north part of Sacramento. And so what I do is I send them, usually about every week or every other week, I'll send them a list, and that's the areas they'll focus on. So if you have some specific intersections or streets, certain blocks that you're having issues, if you want to send me an email, I will add that to the list for their watch list, and they can come back to it. But they, like I said, they'll spend usually about one day in the Natomas area. That's just one day a week, and then they move on to different parts of the city. So they're just limited. And then our patrol officers, in between calls, if they happen to come across somebody that's running a stop sign, they just don't have the free time to sit at, you know, on an intersection and, you know, sit at a stop sign like our motor teams, which that's what they're designed for.
And it kind of goes back to earlier when we need to, if you see something, we need to hear about it, because we're kind of complaint generated. So if we have numerous complaints in an intersection, we would be able to deploy our motor team to that intersection. But it's kind of one of those, the squeakier the wheel, the better, unfortunately, especially with how many officers we have and we don't have.
Okay, so if I see it in a particular area, I should just let our local security guys know about it, and then now what can you guys give tickets, or do you guys just pull them over and?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If you see
or,
it, don't
or
just,
what or what do you guys do?
If you let us know where it's at, and in addition to your security, we can always deploy our motor teams. But again, it's on a rotational basis for resources. So we need you to, if you have an issue in an area, I need you to let me know or let Steve know, so that way we can at least address it.
Yeah, send me an email. Raquel, I assume you're going to put out our email addresses so they have it, and you can send me an email.
Yes.
We have a traffic complaint email address I can share with you for future, but just send me an email or Eric, and with the specific intersections, and we'll share it.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
Now, just one more thing. What does our what are we, Allied Net still? Is that the name of our security company still, or did they change again?
It's Allied.
Okay, what can they do anything, or because I have noticed a few times that one of the cars would be sitting by, especially the intersection right there at the club center, right there between the church and the clubhouse.
Mike, we'll
That
discuss
seems to be a
Allied.
popular spot.
Yeah, we'll discuss Allied and what they can do at our next meeting, so everyone knows what they can and cannot do, because they're security. They don't have, peace officer status like, SAC PD or the local authorities, okay?
Okay,
So
okay. I was
we'll
just curious
yeah.
if they can do anything or not, but that's okay. We can talk about it later if you want to.
Okay,
Yeah, they don't have the ability to write traffic tickets, but
Yeah.
they can obviously sit at an intersection. They can be a deterrent, because a lot of people don't know that. So.
Mhm. Yeah,
Oh, okay, okay. Well, that was it. That was all I had for now.
okay, thank you. Carrie, any questions? Nope.
I think it's
Yes.
important to add, this is Sean Campbell. I think it's important to add that as our officers are out and providing services for the community, whenever we find anyone who's driving recklessly or failing to obey roadway procedures, we make sure and notify law enforcement. So we do act as eyes and ears. We don't have police powers, and it's not our goal to enforce roadway crimes, but obviously when we see those things, we call them in right away. So that way law enforcement's aware of it.
Thank you, Sean. Appreciate that. And stay safe out there. Okay. Then with that, Mark Laver, you have a question? Mark? Is Mark still on?
I have a question.
Okay, well, first let me see. Mark has his question initially first, so I just wanted to get to him, and then I'll get to you, okay, Melissa? Okay, thank you. Mark? Is Mark, Kyle, can you unmute Mark, please?
He is
He's
unmuted. He is unmuted.
Yeah, can you unmute him, please?
He is.
Oh, he is unmuted? Okay, Mark? Mark, you had a question? Okay, Mark, according to this, what he put was question for the police. Much more work needs to be done to thwart speeders in the area. The whole area is unprotected. We have had virtually no motor patrols for years now. The result is lawlessness, street racers, poor driving habits, all worse now, and cities responding so poorly. And with such poor policing, mail theft is worse, and other smaller crimes happening more. What type of policing will occur in new subdivision off 99 in Elkhorn? I mean, that's Mark's question.
That was a loaded one.
I know, I just read, yes, I agree.
I totally understand the traffic complaints. It's not just Natomas, it's everywhere. It's where I live. I don't know, it seems to have gotten worse with COVID. I don't know if it's because during this COVID time, it's because more people are home and they're seeing it. But it's an issue. And unfortunately, I agree. Our traffic division is very understaffed. We used to have about 15 traffic officers when I started here, and we only have 5. So our department's still rebuilding from back in 2008 when the budget crisis hit, and we lost, over 100 positions. And so we're building back up to that. And we hope to someday have a stronger traffic enforcement unit. And unfortunately, our patrol officers, they're handling calls for service all day, back and forth. And a lot of times the traffic enforcement is just, they happen to be in the area and they come across, as I mentioned. As for the, police services off the 99 in Elkhorn he's talking about, they're going to get the same services. We're not getting additional officers to cover that area. It's going to be the same officers that we have now that are covering North Natomas, and they'll just be expanded out to that area. As time goes on, it seems that every year we're adding more officers, and we're able to add a few more officers to each command, which is the North Command. So hopefully, eventually we'll get up there where we'll have more, be able to provide, quicker service and response times, and hopefully expand some of our specialty units like our motor team.
Okay. Okay. Thank
Another
you.
thing that's adding to our crime issues is politically, our state has made some blunders. AB 109 has forced a lot of inmates from prisons down to the county jail. Prop 47 has taken the crimes that were once felonies and made a misdemeanor, so those folks aren't even going to jail. And then going on with the probation, and then also with juveniles, all these things are going to start impacting crime, and we're seeing it in our state, everywhere crime is going up. And it's things, it's not, we as police officers and law enforcement, we can't stand it. I mean, we want our communities to be safe. That's why we took on these jobs. But as what's happening is these laws are being changed and these criminals are not being held accountable. If we were to catch somebody, say, stealing a package off your porch, first time offense, we're going to give them a ticket and let them go because we can't arrest them. The jail won't take them. So that's the kind of things that the politicians in the state house are forcing on the taxpayers.
Wow. Okay. Thank you for that. Okay, Melissa Cardenas.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi. So I just have a question. So I recently installed some new cameras in front of our house. And last night, or this morning in particular, me and my husband seen a man trying to break into both of our cars and actually was successful in his truck. Who would I send that information to? Because I have him on camera. You know, it's a pretty good description of the guy. Where would I send that to?
You can send it straight to me if you like, and I'll forward it over to our neighborhood crime detectives.
Okay.
So have you contacted us for a report, either online or via?
I have not actually. I just happened to, you know, after seeing this today, I jumped onto the website to get the link to join your meeting. So I just joined this meeting a little bit late, but so I definitely would like to get some information and figure out where exactly to send this to.
Yeah, if you fill out if you go online, it's www.sacpd.org, you can actually fill out just a very minimal crime report, and then give us you can send me the video and I'll forward it to our detective unit.
And I'm so sorry, what is your name again?
I'm Eric Forbeck. My email should be on this somewhere, right, Raquel?
Yes. It's,
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll do that. Thank you.
Okay. 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 Charles Gray.
Thank you, Raquel. I'm Charles Gray. I'm the current president of the board of directors for Natomas Park. And I've been here since 2001, and I've seen these issues grow. We met with Heather Fargo when she was the mayor, Ray Trethaway when he was District 1. We've met with Angie from District 1 many times. We met with many lieutenants. We've met with several captains over the years. The issue remains the same. The questions remain the same, and the resolution seems to remain the same. It keeps getting kicked down the road. We have 3,940 homes in Natomas Park with an estimated population of over 12,000 people. We decided to hire personal security, a private security company. And when we first started, our security company was a 65-year-old lady that carried a 9-cell flashlight and was about 4'6" tall, very intimidating. We decided to go to a higher level of patrol, higher trained officers that were allowed to carry weapons. So our security officers carry tasers and weapons. And they work very closely with the police department over years, and several things going on in our community. But the community is paying in excess of $400,000 a year to maintain this private security company, and that's out of our homeowners' pockets, on top of the taxes that we pay for the police department to keep us safe. So we've had these meetings over the years. We've heard, well, you have to call, you have to call, you have to report it. The squeaky wheel gets the grease. We've also heard we have 5 officers in North Natomas, or even in Natomas Park. I don't recall the exactness of that, but they're often called out to issues. And as you stated, Captain Forbeck, Del Paso Heights, which seems to suck all the officers out of North Natomas a big portion of the time. We've heard it over and over, and we've at one point in time hired off-duty police officers to do traffic enforcement for us. But the officers, we could not tell them to give tickets. We could not tell them what to do. So they ended up giving warnings. And that did nothing for us. It took us years to be able to get that program going. And after a couple of years, we decided to cancel it because it wasn't giving us what we wanted or what we needed. We're now looking at doing it again, and we're talking to the city of Sacramento about off-duty officers that will enforce, that will write tickets, that will take care of a lot of the traffic issues we have in Natomas Park. But there again, the members are going to have to pay for this. And it's not fair. We hear this over and over, year after year. I understand the cuts. I understand the recession. I understand what's going on with the Proposition 47 and your issues. But we've been having these conversations with the city council and the police department for 20 years. And if it isn't this excuse, it's that excuse. One thing that would help us immensely, you say you have officers in the community. We know you can't tell when they're in, where they're at, but if we could get a monthly report that said, hey, we were in your community and we were in there so many days this month or this past month and so many hours, and we patrolled your community. And when your traffic patrol is in our community, we know you can't tell us when, but if you could give us a monthly report, hey, we were in your community the month of November, and during that time frame, we issued 172 violations of various types. We need to know. We've heard it year after year. We need some confirmation of what you're doing. We understand your situation. Believe me, we do. But it's not fair to our 12,000 residents to pay taxes for police and then have to augment it with a safety patrol that doesn't even have the ability to make arrests. They can retain, but they have to wait for the police department to come to make arrests. And then only under certain circumstances can those arrests be made. You know that much better than I do. It's an ongoing and never ending issue. And we're trying to come up with a resolution and a solution for it. We have a special permit. It took us years to get, so our officers being armed could go into our parks at night and make sure that the park rules are being enforced. We also have them, when they find homeless in our parks, to move them along. But I understand during COVID, they can't even do that anymore. So that's kind of where we're at. And that's kind of how we got to where we're at. So help us with some solutions. Thank you.
Thank you, Charles. Do we have other questions for the captain or lieutenant?
Yes, I raised my hand.
Oh, okay. Sorry, Lynn. You're not on. I don't see your hand raised. So.
Yes, I have questions too.
Okay.
Hi
Lynn?
there. I actually take a little bit of issue with what was said earlier from the police officer about the drive-by shootings, because as I'm looking at my notes from the safety committee in November, I believe the street was Anger, which I think is an interesting name for a street, AINGER. There were 3 shots fired at 9 o'clock on a Saturday night. And those folks, I'm hoping, are part of tonight, because they were absolutely terrified about what was going on in our community. And it had happened a couple of months before. And there's like 17 people that live in that house. That seems a little high for this neighborhood. So I'd like the issue of drive-by shootings to be readdressed by the police officers. And the other topic that I wanted to bring up, and I'm not sure if now is the right time because I don't know if it's on the agenda. The city, I'm an original homeowner here, and the city planted trees and planted street lighting. And they planted them on many streets so that they conflict, meaning the trees are overtaking the street lights. Therefore, it is a major safety issue. If you're out walking at night, it is extremely dark. I'm fortunate the street I live on doesn't have that issue, but I have requested that the city take it upon themselves to prune those trees. Now, that's not the police officers. That would be the next folks that would be on the agenda, but I wanted to at least get some input from the police officers as to whether or not that is an issue from a safety factor. And I thank you guys. And thanks so much for all you do for our community. Oh, one other thing, I apologize. How many officers are assigned to our area? We were told there were, what, 5 traffic officers. I presume there are others that are assigned as well. And it kind of tags along with Charles' point, which is since we have private security, it seems like we're getting shortchanged. Thank you.
I will. So regarding the drive-by shootings, we weren't saying that they don't happen. The question was about preventing them, and so we're just stating that North Natomas doesn't have as much of an issue as other areas, so it's difficult to prevent them unless it's a reoccurring location. So there's a couple houses right now that we are looking at where there have been some shootings in the North Natomas area, one that you mentioned. So we have made some arrests in some of the cases. And so we also work with the city attorney's office. We have a Justice for Neighbors program where they work to basically civilly go after homeowners who either, if it's a rental property, that aren't taking care of their properties, or they have tenants that are living there. Obviously, you know, if they're homeowner occupied, that's a little bit more difficult to work with. But we do constantly work on those locations that are reoccurring problems, or just one time, if you had a shooting at a location, one time's enough, that we'll start working with our problem-oriented policing team and working with the Justice for Neighbors program to address that. We just had one recently, and it looks like it may be one of those Airbnb type places, but actually the landlord's been working to evict the long-term tenants, but because of COVID, apparently they've had a hard time getting them out of there, and they've hired an attorney. So we are working with those folks to get the people out of the residence. So we do address those issues. And if they come up, if you have a specific example, you can email me and I'll get back to you with the details.
Captain, I think that the street they were talking about was the Maybrook one that happened in, I guess it was August and November. And we have, yeah, I think, yeah, because I had emailed you just questioning about, you know, do you know what's going on? Because I don't blame, you know, the people that were very, very upset when it took place. And I think one of them is actually, one or two are on this Zoom meeting as well. So, with that, I know Lynn had another question, so I apologize for interrupting.
I think the tree lighting, absolutely. I mean, the more light, the better. You know, bad guys don't like to work in light, so darker areas are easier for them to hide. They're harder to be spotted. They're harder to be recorded by cameras. So yeah, anything you can do to trim your trees around the lights absolutely helps us, and I think makes your community safer. And I forgot the last one.
How many officers we have working?
Oh, officers. So it depends on the different shifts. So we have minimum staffing levels. Swing shift is a higher level. You know, during the day, we have like a minimum of 5 day shift officers just for the Natomas area. That includes South Natomas and North Natomas. That's minimum. That's not saying that that's just our minimum staffing level. If people call in sick and we don't have everybody here, if everyone's here, we have at least 6 officers for the Natomas area. And then we have what we call overlap because days off. So we may have more officers. Swing shift is a little heavier. It's typically about 8 officers. And then graveyard's a little smaller too, because graveyard shift overlaps, or I'm sorry, our mid shift swing shift overlaps with our graveyard. So during those hours between basically 9 p.m. to about 12:30, we have double the officers on shift, and those are typically busier hours. So it really just depends. That's for patrol. And then we have our specialty teams, our problem-oriented policing team that's out and about, but they could be working in Del Paso Heights or North Natomas. They bounce around. It's just they're just going around. It just depends on what they're working on that day. So, but I can get you specific numbers if you need me to email them to you. And then I know it was mentioned about like letting know what our officers do or tracking how many hours they spend. I don't think we have the ability to do that with our patrol officers because we do have minimum staffing for that. But when our motor units come out and work in your area, I'd be more than happy to share with that because they do send me a report when they're out there.
Okay, thank you. Okay, other questions? Anybody else?
Yes, I would.
Alexandra Weisberger and then Deb.
Thank you.
Yes. So I'm hearing a lot about the squeaky wheel and communication. We have an incident, we have an issue here where it's happened multiple times. We have video of it. The police have been here. We've given them the video. We've expressed our concerns, but we never get any follow-up. We really don't see much change in the behavior of this specific problem. And I'm just wondering, how squeaky can you get, or what's squeaky enough to where somebody needs to get hurt? Or because we have bullets going through people's cars, we have video of drive-bys, and we're submitting this to the police. We're doing everything we can to get the information that we have as residents to the authorities. I'm just wondering, what is it going to take to make? I'm not saying I'm taking it. It's very a serious issue, but I'm concerned that enough's not being done when we're giving you all the evidence we have with specific vehicles in front of residents shooting and having actual bullet holes in our vehicles, and we're not seeing or hearing anything about what's being done about that.
Are you talking about the incident that happened last week?
I'm talking about the 2 incidences on Maybrook.
That was in August and then November, the drive-by shootings.
Correct. We were directly affected.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if Eric, if you remember the outcome of that. I know our North Pop team is working on that.
I think the POP team's working with JFN, which is our Justice for Neighbors, but I'll have to look into it. If you send me an email, I will look into it when I'm back in the office tomorrow. That way I can find out what the status is, if it's actually being investigated or if there's enough evidence on it. Because we do have a very aggressive gang enforcement team. And normally when we have shootings like that type, they're the ones that would run with it. So if you could send me a reminder or the address, I'll take a look at it in the morning.
Okay, and just to reiterate, 4 police officers came to our house. I did give the police officer the video. So he has it. I emailed him directly. But we have not heard or seen anything at all after that.
I'll have to look and see what the case status is on that. So just send me an email.
You have to forgive me. I don't remember the name of the officer directly at this moment, but there was one of the officers from Sacramento Police Department that we were emailing directly as well with all of our history and background with that unit as well. So there are officers that are working. I'll get that officer's name. I don't have it on me right now.
Thanks, Sean.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, then Deb Harms.
Hello. I just had a couple questions, and forgive me. Do we have both a patrol and a watch patrol, or how many patrols are there in our area, and how often are they in our area?
So we just, if you're talking about the police department, not security patrol.
Correct.
Like,
Police department.
Just for the police department, we just have those number of officers, but it's not specifically, we have officers that are assigned beats, which are smaller areas. So North Natomas is considered a beat, basically, we call it 1A. So they're assigned to that area, but they do get pulled to other parts of, South Natomas, the Northgate area. Primarily, they do stay between, west of the levee. That is their primary area, but they'll bounce back and forth throughout South Natomas, North Natomas, throughout their shifts. And so those numbers that I gave earlier are for the different shifts. So day shift starts at 6 in the morning. They get off at 4 p.m. Our swing shift starts at 2:30 p.m. And then they get off at 12:30 p.m. And then our graveyard starts at 9 p.m. and then they're done at 7 a.m. And those are the shifts. So
it's really only 5 patrols throughout the entire day for all of the Natomas area, north and south?
So correct. So it 5 to 6 in the morning for our day shift. The swing shift is a little bit heavier. I'd have to look the exact number for swing shift. I think it's 5 per day shift minimum. That is minimum. It's not to say that's all we have, but that's if people are calling in sick, they're on vacation, we have to minimally staff that number is 5 during the day. Our swing shift or mid shift team is a minimum of 6. that we have to put out. And then our graveyard goes back down to 5. And so, yes, that does cover all those areas that I was talking about on the west side, west of the levee.
And now you, earlier. you
But
were
one of the
saying-
other things that's not meant, that Steve didn't mention, was the officers assigned to District 1, which is the north area of Natomas and all that. They also end up going over to the District 2, which is shared, same station, for shootings and things like that. So we might have officers assigned to Natomas, but sometimes they actually get pulled over to the east side of the levee.
Okay. And I think you guys, one of you had said that currently the police are understaffed. Is that correct?
Very much
Well,
so.
we were at, when I started here in 1994, we had about 650 officers. We got to over 800, about 820 officers. And then in 2008, when the economy tanked, we lost a lot of positions. And so right now we're back up to, I think we're authorized about 750. And so we're right about that number right now. So we don't even have as many officers as we had, 12 years ago. So we don't have a narcotics team. There's a lot of units we had to cut. Our motor team got cut in half. Like I said, we don't have a narcotics team. So there's, so we're just, we're trying to spread our resources as best as we can.
So is this a budget issue, or is this a combination of budget issue and not enough applicants issue? Because I mean, all I see around us is homes and apartments being built. And so I would think that if we're understaffed now and we don't hire a considerable number of personnel to increase our numbers, particularly with the incredible amount of homes and apartments, and the apartments are going to be housing even more people than single family homes, that, I mean, I would expect that you guys need to hire like 200 plus more people very soon.
I agree 100%.
Yeah, we figure the city of Sacramento is a little over 500,000. If you look, I know you've heard a lot about Seattle and cutting their budget, defunding the police department. So they lost 100 officers, but their city is just a little over 700,000 people. So it's a little bit bigger than us, but they have 1,400 officers. So they basically have about 2 officers for every 1,000 people. So that's a large department. So if you look at the numbers and you compare, I would say we're understaffed, to be able to do what we would like to be able to do.
But is it budget related only, or is it budget and lack of applicants? Is it
I would have said about a year ago, it was both. Right now, I'll say it's budget because we're not budgeted for positions. Since with COVID and the economy the way it's been, our applications have gone up quite a bit. So we actually, our last academy, we have 2 academies a year, and so we actually filled up our last academy. We had a lot of applicants. So I think because people are looking for jobs a little bit more secure, we're starting to get a lot more applicants. So we're actually doing pretty good in that area. So right now it's just budgeting for positions.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate the information.
Shannon?
Thank you. This is a question probably for, Mayor Pro Tem Ashby's office as well, but it does have to do with the resources and the funding of the resources. Clearly Measure U funds, are part of the equation, and that's why the voters, passed that. But part of what I'm hearing or inferring, even though it's not been explicitly stated, is the more statistics you have of crime and evidence of crime, or reports of crime or suspicions of crime, the better you as police officers are equipped to advocate and make the case for additional resources that you've heard from several people in our community feel are underrepresented at this point. I also have a concern related to that. So the first question is, is my assumption correct that we really do need to just report everything, no matter what, to help? Would that be helpful, or is that, undercutting your ability to perform? the second question related to that is, with the social equity that formula that the that the council and the mayor seem to be embracing. North Natomas will never, rise to the level, so to speak, of, a disenfranchised community, or, I don't want to use value laden words, but, on paper, we look great, but yet crime in our community is as important to us as it is to every other citizen. And as Charles so eloquently stated, we are paying for that. So how can North Natomas and Natomas Park Master Association in particular position itself to get its fair share of new officers that may be hired, an appropriate staffing level that meets the needs of the community on a per capita basis? I think it's as simple as that. That's my second question. And then I have a third question, but maybe you should answer those two because the other is a different topic.
Okay, I'll take a jab at it. So on your first question on reporting, yes, report. The more reporting we have, the better. It helps us identify areas where issues in and deploying our resources. So even if it's something as minor as a package theft off your front porch, we ask, we beg you to report it, because without having that information, we don't have an area or an idea of where to put our resources. We are thin. We're way too thin, but we kind of work by, hey, this is the biggest problem right now, and we focus our issues there. As far as the second question, I was assigned a detail where I worked city council for quite a while when there was a lot of protests. And in all honesty, and the council, Ashby's office is going to hate this, but you got to show up at city council and speak your mind. It seems that the loudest voice in city council gets more notice from city council. And yeah, you're being underserved by our police department, but it needs to be spoken up at city council. And I think that would be the best bet, is having voices there, and not just one Tuesday, but repeated over and over again. So that way they understand that, yeah, it is a problem.
I'll chime in real quick since this was addressed to our office as well. Mayor Pro Tem Ashby is a strong supporter of our Sacramento Police Department. She continually advocates for them and funding and just support from the dais at council meetings. So I do want to add that. And I would agree with our lieutenant in terms of, voicing, hey, I'm in need of police officers as a community. Anytime we get those emails, we forward them over to our city manager, Howard Chan, who's in charge of the employees of the city of Sacramento.
Okay.
Our department's very statistic driven. So every year we have a patrol planning team that looks at the numbers at the end of the year for deployment for the following year. And it's all based on the number of calls for service, crime, and those areas that are heavier in, calls for service and crimes end up getting more officers assigned to those districts or beats.
Thank you. That's very helpful. Two more questions. One is that, it's been discussed at the safety committee in several occasions of, organizing a more robust neighborhood watch program. What we've been told by representatives of the association is that, legally the association has been advised that may be a liability. So we cannot organize through the association process per se. So if we're not able to utilize the homeowners association to organize neighborhood watches, what is the most efficient way to do that? And then a separate question on a completely different topic, and I know we're not talking about the homeless master plan and the sites under the emergency order for homelessness, but can you tell us what you are doing to address the homelessness issue within Natomas Park Master Association, what you are legally prohibited from doing during COVID, and what you would normally be doing, outside of COVID. I think it would be helpful for us to understand, the rules of the game that you're operating under.
Currently, I'll address your second question first, the homeless issue. Right now with COVID, we are forbidden to move anybody that's in public property. So if somebody's, say, in a public park, we can't force them to leave due to COVID. And it sounds crazy, you can't even ask them to go on the street. Private property is different. So if you have somebody in a business or in, say, your yard, we can issue no trespass and we can deal with that. As far as COVID's concerned, our hands are completely tied. And it's not just us, it's the sheriff's department, it's all the law enforcement in the area. And that's honestly, that's going to be more of a councilman's question for how they plan on dealing with homeless. We keep trying to, we as a department trying to get out of the homeless business. It's a service that basically holds a ton of resources, law enforcement, fire, at all. And we're actively trying to get out of that business. We want to make it more of a social service aspect instead of a law enforcement aspect. And then I forgot what your first question was. I apologize for the first half.
Neighborhood watch. So.
Oh, neighborhood watch. That's simple. Again, send me an email. We used to have a neighborhood watch unit, but they're kind of disbanded right now. But I can bring out resources and all that. I can perform or practice safe distancing. I'll wear a mask or whatever. If you have if you set up a meeting, and I'll come out there myself and address it. And
so if I can just ask, so you're saying that your neighborhood association doesn't support doing the neighborhood watches? Are you just talking about just getting information and being eyes out, or are you talking about like neighborhood patrols?
What we've been told, and Raquel and Mark, Sanders, correct me if I'm wrong, Kyle, Charles, Deb, what we've been told is that, our attorney has indicated that it may be a liability for the association to put themselves in the role as a mediator, as a facilitator to help organize neighborhood watches. So we cannot use the communication vehicles within the association to let people know that something like that is available, even if it's owner initiated, is what we have been told. And that's where it stands right now as of the most recent inquiry, which was, probably 3 to 4 months ago.
Yeah, that's the first I've heard of that. So I don't know if you can speak to that.
So
is Charles still
does anyone in the association want to, because, if I'm wrong, I'd be very happy to be wrong on this one.
Shannon, I have a request to Raquel for another question. When we get to that point, I will address it.
Yeah, okay.
Our attorney is really good at saying it's a liability issue.
Cannon, your other question or
I think that's it. I just wanted to take a moment and thank both the Mayor Pro Tem's office and, representatives of our police department. You have many demands on your time and your resources. Yeah. And thank you very much for spending your time with us. It means a lot, and it's very helpful for us to understand, what you're doing to help us.
Thank you, Cannon. Thank you. Charles?
Thank you, Raquel. Let me get my video back on. I hate to talk when you can't see my face. I want to go back to my original statement, and I want to say I think I came across a little strong. I think as a community and a city, we need to work together. Mm-hmm. We really need to do our best to work together. I know with our board of directors and our homeowners association, the board gets pounded all the time for lack of communication to the members. Well, we don't know what you're doing. We didn't know you did that. Could you give us more information about this or that? And so I understand why the members are pounding the police department in the city so hard. Additional information in any form that you could give us. There was a time that the association was getting a monthly police report that we would put into our monthly newsletter. What was going on with the police department in our community. That would be so helpful to communicate. Right now, our members don't know what the police are doing, and most of them think the police aren't doing anything. The police highly rely on our private security company and think they should be our police department, which everybody knows they can't. They're very limited on what they can do. So moving on, I think communication is key to this. But moving on with some of the things that I've gained from this meeting, is there not a program where someone who has cameras in their house, Ring cameras, video cameras, can reach out to the city and say, hey, I have a camera in my house. That way, if something happens in a house next door or a block away or whatever, the police will have a list of people that have cameras that they could go investigate and look at those tapes if needed. I've heard that's there. Is that still in place? Are we still doing that?
Yeah, we do have that. You can log into our website and add that. We didn't get very much participation, so it's not used very much. So then we're teaming up with Ring. So many people have the Ring video cameras that allows it's us to reach out to folks in specific neighborhoods to send out a message on the Neighbors app that's part of Ring. But apparently, I'm not that familiar with the program, but apparently even if you have a different camera system, you can actually join the Neighbors app also with a different camera system. So the Neighbors app, and I posted something on Nextdoor, I want to say maybe like a couple of months ago. I can repost it, or I can send Raquel the information if you want to send it out to your group, but you can actually, it's got the information on what it's about and how it works. But it allows our detectives to go out and reach out to people in a certain neighborhood to see if anybody has video footage.
If you could send it to Raquel, send it to Kyle, our general manager, and we'll put that in our outreach. We can do email post, we can do newsletter, we can do a number of things with that. Anything we can do to get that information out to the community is imperative.
Now, we can do that. And we also, you can sign up on the police department on the face page. There's the e-notify. And if folks want to sign up for daily reports, anybody can sign up for that, and they'll get reports for their area that talk about some of the bigger calls that officers have handled in their community. And that's a daily report that comes out.
Okay, my next item is that you talked about officers in District 1, and you have a minimum of 5, and you talked about Natomas, but District 1 also includes the downtown. So is that 5 officers?
Sorry, no, that's Police District 1. So Police District 1 basically encompasses all of North Natomas, South Natomas, and then like the Northgate corridor. That's all Police District 1 that you guys are part of.
Okay, because then that's, in that case, we misunderstood that over a long period of time. Is there a map of the police districts that you could send to Raquel?
Yep, I can do that
We can
too.
differentiate these?
Yep.
Okay, on to Neighborhood Watch. Early in our years, we encouraged Neighborhood Watch as a homeowners association. The city had a young gentleman that would go out and train neighborhood groups on how to put together a watch. The association bought a lot of signs and had them installed from different areas in the community, Neighborhood Watch. Then at some period of time, there was a litigation in a homeowners association somewhere in the country over a Neighborhood Watch, where the homeowners association was found liable and had to pay a very large sum of money. And because of that, our attorneys are hired to protect us. So they're looking at any and all liabilities and advise us not to do anything that has any kind of a liability. So based on that, we decided through the attorney's advice that we could not, we can't say no Neighborhood Watch, but we can't endorse it as a homeowners association. Now, I will say this, in recent months, the board has discussed revisiting this And maybe the risk isn't all that great, and we want to move forward with endorsing and supporting neighborhood watches. That's not a decision that has been made, but that is something that's being considered. I guess my last comment is newsletter. If you got, I know you're busy, I know you're shorthanded, but if you could give us information to send to Raquel on a monthly basis, that could be put in our newsletter. And I'm going back to my original comment. It's all about communication. If the members don't hear from you, the assumption is you're not doing anything. If we hear from you, we know what you're doing and we know you're out there. So I think it's important. And that's it, Raquel.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any other questions from homeowners? Okay, let's go with, okay. Nobody else? Okay, then with that, then we want to thank, so nobody has any comments for Angela Ashby's or SAC PD? Or do you want to save the member comments when they leave?
Raquel,
Okay.
can I chime in real quick?
Sure, yeah.
Oh, so Mayor Pro Tem Ashby does have a listserv that we send out newsletters monthly, and we hope to send out just more information in regards to city resources and the upcoming town hall that we're having on homelessness. So if you guys, I'm going to put Maisha's email address here. If you guys can send her an email or just type your email address on the chat box, that'd be great so we can get in contact.
Okay, thank you so much. Appreciate that.
Hey, Raquel, can I add one more thing?
Sure, Deb.
So I just moved to the Sacramento area in 2018, and I come from a small town. So I know we touched briefly on the shootings in the area, and I have to say that that's probably one of my biggest concerns, because I did come from a small town, and to come to Sacramento now, and it just never occurred to me. It just, maybe that was naive, but it really never occurred to me that there would be shootings so close to my home. And there have been 3, 2 just the other day, or just this last week, not necessarily specific to Natomas Park, but then there were 1 or 2, I think, in Natomas Park area. Is there any way for some kind of information, communication, follow-up, or something that can be given to people who ask on follow-ups for those? Because the last 2 that were, one was on Charm and the other one was, I can't remember, but
it was on Duck Walk.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Those are within like a mile of my home. And I really was like, I feel safe. I feel safe. I don't know that I can say that completely anymore. And that bothers me, because I've invested heavily in my home here. This was supposed to be my forever home. And it really does, it bothers me. So, and like Charles had said, communication is kind of key. And particularly on those, like I know that there's going to be people speeding, and there's going to be people who do a rolling stop and all that stuff. And not that I'm not concerned about that, but I have to say that I'm far more worried about these shootings that are incredibly close and within our neighborhood. And I understand that you're saying that that's not a lot, but it is. I guess that's all depending upon your experience. And my experience is no shootings ever in my life until now, anywhere near where I lived. So what can the community do to get more information on the follow-ups to these shootings? On, were there arrests? What's being done? How in that specific manner can people follow up to get more information, to feel better about things of that magnitude?
That's where using or utilizing my email would be perfect on something like this. I know those shootings were last week. I know it's gonna sound like an excuse, but all of our resources were tied up preparing for possible protests downtown. So we're going to investigate the shootings. We don't, our gang enforcement team doesn't let anything go by that involves a shooting anywhere in the north area of Sacramento. So it will be looked at. If you would send me an email, is it Miss Harms? If you send me an email, and then I can get you an idea of where they're at, but it's really early in the in that case. I know that they're doing some investigations on it, and like I said, until I can get a hold of some detectives tomorrow, I won't be able to get anything yet. But if you send me an email, I'll get it to you.
All right.
And a lot of these investigations are, I mean, they're ongoing. So while we may feel comfortable sharing some information with neighbors, we may not be able to give you everything, but it's not something that we necessarily want to blast out that, hey, you know, we're close to making an arrest, or we have a search warrant we're going to be serving. That kind of information we don't put out. Or even if we're working on, you know, maybe, you know, working with the city attorneys to go after them civilly, that may not be something we want to advertise completely. So, but on a one-on-one basis, a lot of that information we're willing to share depending on what it is.
And that's totally understandable. I wouldn't want any information that's going to harm your investigation or being able to.
And I get your concern. Let me tell you, you know, property crime for the most part is somewhat either stagnant or going down, but violent crime in the city, not just our city, it's around, it has gotten up. The gang violence has gone up. And unfortunately, it does spread into different areas. While I might be focused in some of the more challenged neighborhoods, it does spread out to different parts, you know, even small towns, different parts of our city that typically don't see gun violence, they're seeing it now. Our officers, I'd say just in the north area, a day, probably anywhere from 5 to 6, 7 guns a night or during the shift, where they're pulling guns off gang members, you know, felons. It's a very regular thing now. Like when we started, like Lieutenant Forbeck said, when he was a baby cop, I mean, for us to get a gun off somebody was pretty rare. And I'd say in the last year or so, it's really gone up. Where like it seems like every car stop our officers make on someone that's suspicious that they things involved in gang activity, they have guns on them. And then unfortunately, with the way the laws are, and also with COVID, we arrest them for illegal possession of a firearm, you know, because they're a felon or gang member, not just because they had it concealed improperly, but these are bad guys, and we put them in jail and they're out the next day, and we arrest them again later that week with another gun. So it's very ongoing. So we're trying to stay on top of it. Our officers are very big in technology, following social media pages. It's amazing what these folks put out on social media. Rap videos, they challenge each other. The different gangs challenge each other. So unfortunately it is spreading to different parts, which includes North Natomas. And so we're trying to keep that out as best as we can.
And part of our gang unit, and I say gang unit because they basically target the gang members, but they do proactive investigations on social media regarding guns and these types of things. They were actually involved in an arrest up in El Dorado Hills where they located some gang videos, and they were talking about partying at VRBO, something similar to what happened last week. So they're actually looking into that kind of stuff proactively, in addition to just responding to gang or gang type calls.
Yeah, I have to believe sometimes with at least some people that social media will be their downfall simply because of their need to, I don't know, you guys know what I'm saying.
Express themselves.
Or brag. Bragging is just incredible. But so I apologize, a couple more things. Are there any issues with putting your guys' emails in our newsletter, letting people
Absolutely
know?
Not. Go ahead.
Excellent.
They're for everybody in your organization. Absolutely.
Perfect. And then I know Officer Oliveira, you're on Twitter. Is there any other social media that you guys are on that will help people follow for information on what's going on with things that are going on in the neighborhood?
I would say, I mean, we're on Nextdoor also, but that e-notify that I spoke about, that's on our, it's on the alerts part of our page. You go on there, and it's a daily activity log from the sergeants. The sergeants every day, they do a daily activity log of, you know, the bigger calls that have occurred during the day. And then our PIO office will pull those calls out. They may scrub them a little bit, but it'll have block numbers and that sort of thing. And that's a great way to keep up on anything major that's happening in your neighborhood.
And that's the email list, correct?
It's e-notify. So if you go to that front sacpd.org and you there's a part that says stay informed. If you scroll down there, and it's called e-notify, and you can sign up for alerts.
Perfect. And that information can go on our website and our newsletter as well. Yeah.
Absolutely. If you click on that link, you'll see it where you can sign up. Yeah.
Perfect. I'll get with Raquel on that. Thank you very much for everything you guys do and for taking the time to be with us tonight. It's really appreciated.
Absolutely.
Okay, so with that, then I want to thank then from Angela Ashby's office, Karina Talamontes and Misha Ross. Thank you to very much. And Captain Oliveira and Lieutenant Forbeck, we really appreciate your time, patience, and answering all the questions. And we will be keeping in contact with you. So thank you so much for attending tonight's meeting.
Thank you, Raquel.
Okay,
Have a good night.
Thank you.